Hi, this is Dan here. I hope you're doing really well today. In this lesson, I'm going to go quite deep on scales. I get this question or a variation of it quite a lot. I know my basic 1-octave scales, but I don't know how to practice them or what to do with them. What do I do? And the latest question was really about, I know my minor pentatonic, major pentatonic, but I don't know how to create a riff around them or to make something up using that. So in this lesson, I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to take a major scale, show you how to improvise using it, and then go deeper. And by that, I really mean to understand the harmony underneath it, behind it. Then I'm going to do the same thing in minor, and then I've got a sort of jazzy example. So let's just dive straight into it. You probably know this. This is a 1-octave G major scale. You know, a lot of people know that, and then they don't really know what to do next. So I would suggest we'll go level by level. Try to make something up using this. How do we do this? Let's start by changing the pattern to this. I use this pattern a lot, especially in gigs if there's like a last-minute tune or someone, you know, especially like wedding gigs or function gigs where the piano player just starts playing a request and you don't know it, but you're following like major scale harmony. I'll just sort of demonstrate, you know, if I were to make something up. Or Don't Stop Believing. Now, what we're doing here as bass players is we're often playing the root notes, which are, you know, all these notes here. There's G. Now the E there, we can number this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So these are chord progressions. There are chords going on underneath this, and that's the second layer that we're going to get to in a minute. But for now, we don't really need to think about that. You can center around G and just go to random notes. And use the notes of the scale to connect the different notes together, the different root notes. Now, to improvise, there are a couple of things I need, and I'll show you these as we go, and you'll notice very quickly that, yes, this is a scale lesson, but it's a playing bass lesson. You need more than just to know the correct notes. I have a sense of timing and rhythm going here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm doing eighth notes. I'm not stumbling over my technique in any way. If you can't do this, which is just G, slide from frets 5 to 7, the A to the B, play the D. That's on the way to the E, that's on the 7th fret of the A string. If you can't do that, then that is top of your list, is to work on your technique. But in order to create, and as the question was alluding to, how do I create with this? Well, sense of rhythm, techniques to make it sound more interesting. Timing. You know, every Coldplay song or U2 song uses this kind of idea. I don't want to reduce U2 and Coldplay to just that, but you know, they're based around this kind of simple ideas. So if you number them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, what we're really doing here is playing the root notes to chord progressions. So you can get really fancy and say, I'm doing a 1, 5, 6, 4. If you number them and do the notes in that order, 1, 5, 6, 4. Let's do the same thing, connecting them up a little bit more musically. using the notes of the scale to make it sound a little bit more melodic. One thing I will just insert at this point here, which is really, really important, and with all that Giacomo Tura stuff going on recently, I just thought this is so obvious, but I'm not sure it is. You need to listen to the great players of the past, in our case bass players, and you need to study their bass lines, copy them note for note in order to learn from them, and you'll hear all of these things going on, and then that informs you, that becomes part of your voice. That's what you need to do. Be doing that all the time. It's probably the best thing you can do to improve your bass playing, is to listen to as many different styles as you can, work out the bass lines by ear. Okay, let's level this up a little bit by getting a bit more complicated, and that's what I mean when I say, perhaps learning scales wrong, and maybe just, try it this way, which is harmony. Okay, so here is the scale. On any single degree of the scale, as it's called, we can play a chord. Okay, now we're not going to be doing that in band situations, although you can have a lot of fun with that. We're going to be playing the triads or the arpeggios. Okay, very quickly I'll just define what I mean by those, just so you know what I'm going on about. Here's a G major scale. To play a triad, you just take from that collection of notes the first, third and fifth. Here we get a G major triad. Add the octave in and we have an arpeggio. Add in the seventh, we get a seventh arpeggio, which is G major 7 in this case. Whenever you play that, people are reminded of Stranger Things. When you play those notes together at the same time, that's where you get your chord. Okay, which we're sort of not going to do. But now, if I'm doing the same chord progression, G, I'm on E minor, this is the 6th chord. If we do the same treatment here, play all the notes in G major, starting on E, extract the triad, we find it's minor, add the 7, we find it's a minor 7. Now that's a great collection of notes to know. You need to know that. Now I can go. I would never do anything like that, but that's just to illustrate. I was doing chord tones, also known as arpeggios. There's the 4. If I play all the notes of the G major scale, however, I start on C, that's my 1, E is my 3, G is my 5, C major triad. I'm whizzing through this because I have resources and I have a music theory course that goes through all of this, teaches it in depth, in detail. Don't need to do it in this lesson. Add the 7th in B, we get a major 7th. This is over the 4 chord. Okay, that's the C. So G major 7 to C major 7 is the 1 to the 4 chord, okay? I have a backing track here which you can download for free along with the other 2, and that's what we're going to do now. We're going to go G major 7 to C major 7, and I'll do a few things within it. I want to ultimately create a nice bass line, don't I, though? I'm using scales, G major, and I'm using, this is the important thing, what I can derive from scales, which is arpeggios. Let me do that now, and I'll explain what I'm doing. The kick drum's doing that. So I was doing that, just root notes really. These are just very simple, very choice notes that you can use over a chord. G, the fifth is the D, and then the octave is the G, really simple. But you may want to add the seventh in. See that? That's the octave. The seventh is right next to it. Major seventh, I should say. Same here on the C. The 1 and the 4 chords in a major key have the same quality, major seventh. And if I did anything like this, I was just using the notes of the scale, okay? So this is the kind of way I would like you to think and practice scales, is to create using them. And that point I was making about listening to music, I think that should be right at the top of your priority in terms of what to practice on bass. It is listening to music and preferably getting out. Look, I'm part of the problem. I'm teaching you this. I like to sometimes give you tab and whatever. This lesson, there isn't any. You've got to do a bit of work. But I think get out of YouTube, get listening on your own and not relying on tab sites. The ear is the most important thing. And all songs are made up of some sort of a scale. Usually in bass lines, it's, single notes, which could comprise of chord tones, arpeggios or whatever. So the sooner you learn this, the sooner you'll hear it in music. That will help you. That will make you better at making up your own thing as well. If we start on the same root, the G, but we'll now go to a minor scale. This is a natural minor. We get this. Okay, good one to learn. If I can think of a few riffs that you might know. Oh, you know what? How many people know this? I'll play it, see if you know this riff. This is very niche. A few people from the UK might know this, of a certain age as well. It's Got to Get Through This by Daniel Bedingfield. Was it Garage Tune? I think it was. But let's say you wanted to make up something that's in a minor key. It sounds a bit edgier, doesn't it? A bit rockier now, like Feel Good Inc. Or any number of sort of funk 70s things. I'm just making this up now. You know, you're entering that territory with this. So I'm going to reiterate the points here. I'll teach you in a second about how you might approach making up your own lines and stuff once you've got that figured out, the pattern. But it's really about timing and technique. If you are stumbling over any of those things, then you need to work on that. This lesson isn't really just a scale lesson, because it never is it? Like, you need the right notes, but you also need the technique and you also need the timing. You can't really, like, good bass playing is a combination of all of these things. Let's start really, really simple. Let's just go this speed. These are eighths, and I'm just going to randomly go to some different notes starting on the G. Going G, B flat, E flat. Now, any of these notes you can play an octave. If you watched my Joe Dart clinic video from last week, you would have heard that tip that he does a lot, which is just to keep the little finger just sort of hovering above the octave at all times, to go there to add some rhythm and sort of, you know, ghost notes and stuff like that in. Technique, you need the timing behind it as well. So if you were to get a metronome or a drum loop and try and practice some of this stuff along to that, then you'll be practicing those elements of your bass playing alongside this improvising using scales. Now let's move into how I suggest you think about the scales, which is to really always know the underlying harmony. So now there's the scale. I forgot to mention in the major that you have a pentatonic underneath it. In the minor version it would just be this. So there's the scale. Get the 1, the 3 and the 5, you have an triad, which now is minor. Add the 7th, you get a minor 7 arpeggio, and that pentatonic is the same, but you just have a 4th note in there. Again, I'm not going into this too much. I've got those resources, I've got other lessons on this, got the theory course, it's all there. Okay, I'll go through it really slowly now and I'll flash up what I'm playing. So really what I did there was I played the scale up and then the 7th arpeggio. And then when you play it on every single note, you're playing a mode and then you're playing the arpeggio. We don't really even need to get that into it though in this lesson. I have a backing track now, and here we've got G minor 7. Then we've got C minor 7. I'm going to play it on the 10th fret, or the 8th fret, because it's the same shape. Let me just quickly zoom in and show you the fingering pattern I'm doing. I'm going 1, 4, then 3, the A string, then 1, and then the octave on 3. It's the same here, 1, 4, 3, 1, 3. When you go to D, 2 frets higher, same. So this is what I mean. The scale gives us these notes just by following that 1, 3, 5, 7 thing. And that's really real world bass playing. It's more useful than just knowing a scale, okay? Ideally you'd know both though. So here's the backing track. We've got G minor 7, C minor 7, D minor 7, C minor 7. At the end there, you can do the same thing. The reason I wrote it this way, G minor 7, and you go 1, 2, 3, 4 notes up the scale. You can play it there or here on the E string. That creates a minor 7 as well. And the D, so the 1, the 4, the 5. That just means the position the note is in the scale. 1 is 1, go up to the 4th, up to the 5th. The quality of all of those is minor 7. So it's a good one to teach because it shows you that you can actually play the same thing, move it to different places. Just to be clear, the G is on the 3rd fret of the E string. The C is on the 8th. The D is on the 10th. Even this works. That's root 5 octave. the flat 7. Now we get into patterns. It's always on the same fret, 2 strings away. Using the scale just to connect up the root notes. This is where your fills come from. It's worth reiterating the point. I do it a lot, just repeating the same things. I mean, you sort of have to, because we've got the notes that fit and that work. It's always the same. You've got the scale, you've got the arpeggios. But then you've got a sense of timing, okay? So I'm slipping up here, but I'm sort of practicing as I'm teaching, you know. And unlike Giacomo Tura, I've got no editing, no nothing. Mistakes stay in. If you find yourself tripping up over any of those things, then you know to identify those to practice and focus on. I'm going to move on quickly to the next one. It's quite a long lesson, this. So now we have a non-diatonic example, meaning that the others came from just one key, the diatonic chords of those keys. This one is a little bit more involved. We have an A major 7, F major 7, D minor 7, C sharp major 7. So we're not really in one key here. I don't want you really to worry too much about what I'm going to say, but over any of the A major 7, any of the major 7 chords, you're going to play a Lydian mode, which I'll show you, and the D minor 7 is a Dorian mode. It's still that thing of you have a chord, and then you have some notes or a scale or a mode underneath it that you can play. Okay, it's just that. Of course, you have the arpeggio as well. So I'm going to probably start off formulaically by playing, if that's a word, by just playing root notes. Then I'll build up to root 5. Then I'll put the arpeggio in, and then I'll play the mode, just to show you that they work, okay? I wrote this last night, then I realised that it sounds a tiny bit like It's Over by Level 42. Then I wasted about an hour and a half listening to Level 42 when I should have been doing this. Well, it's not wasting, it's brilliant. What an amazing bass player and writer and band they were, just incredible. So it reminded me a bit of that, and that's why I sort of created this backing track in that sort of style. We have A major 7. It's the same as before, but now I can just use it, do it on A, go to an F, same. Fast forward to the C sharp major 7. All of those arpeggios, i.e. that same pattern, works over any of those. This is brilliant, by the way. I'm looking at the chords here. You can play them anywhere. This is an excellent note learning exercise for your fretboard. There's an F here, there's one here, there's one here. You can play the pattern anywhere, okay? Right, then the D minor 7, I'm playing it on the 5th fret. But what I was really trying to do was not use everything at once, you know. Lots of root note. But that F major 7 to D minor 7, that's a nice movement. I do that all the time. If I'm on an E, and there's a C sharp in this case, on the 9th fret, and the chord is major, you just play these notes. It's just a pattern. So there's the 9th fret, And then on the G string, you're targeting these 3 notes. Nice and symmetrical. You end up on that note, which is the third, major third up the octave. Work on any major thing. Now again, that came from me just studying bass lines and listening to that once, thinking I love that, and now I hear it all the time. So I know this lesson has gone on for a long time, and I know that it's not just about scales, is it? It's about a lot of other things. But that's what I want you to do. I want you to take a 1 octave scale and try to create like a riff out of it. Then know that all of those scales have the harmony, and that's the thing you need to think about, I think, as a bass player, is to learn in every key the harmony. Now every major key is the same. A minor key is related to it, so again it's the same. This is the part where I tell you that I have that music theory course which explains this in a much better way than I can do in this one lesson. I haven't really explained it brilliantly in this lesson, but you can go there or look at the other resources I have, free resources I have. But then you're using your technique, you're using your musicality, that comes from listening, and that's where you can start to improvise and use these scales absolutely optimally, I think. Can I ask you, if you did get something from that lesson, to perhaps subscribe to the channel? Just helps me to grow it and to do more free lessons like this. Now, if you did like that scale lesson, here's one about how to practice scales in a nice musical way. Have any time, feel free to check that out. Otherwise, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next lesson.